What's up, everybody? It's the Power Rankings Podcast, aka the Power Rankings Show. I'm your host, Elliot Harrison, and I am pleased to be joined, as always, by @Marcus_Mosher. How are you?
Doing well. How are you doing today, Elliot?
Even though I was just talking to you offline a minute ago. I always think that's funny whenever people say, "Hey, how are you? How are you?" I'm like, whatever. You guys were going over notes and crap like 5 minutes ago. Just anybody who hasn't worked in TV, the "how are you" stuff is all fake. It's all fake. I don't mean to, ruin Good Morning America for you.
And if you ever heard anybody say anything other than good or great when they ask, how are you doing? Never hear anybody, I'm just tired, a little bit sore. Don't really want to do the show today, but I'm here.
Well, this guy that I used to work at the baseball card store with, Rob Barton, really interesting dude. We had to drive him home from work every day. We'd listen to Motley Crue, Theater of Pain, album, tape, cassette. But he tried to coin a phrase. He really thought I was going to catch on, because in the early 90s, people would say, "What's up?" And he thought "nutch" was really going to hit it. Like, not much, nutch. Because they were saying "what's up." He thought he'd make a contraction. And I remember our boss, HL, this 40-year-old guy with a big old belt buckle, who used to go to this country bar called Stampede all the time. He just looked at Rob, just like looked through his soul when he made that joke. But our boss, HL, used to do a game that I'm sure, Marcus, you and your friends did at some point, or I know that's near and dear to your heart if you haven't done it, which is he'd say, our boss would come out, it'd be the end of our shift at the baseball card store. He'd look at Rob and I and he'd go, "Guys, packs." And he would like draw a pack from one of our wax boxes, like the Old West.
Yeah.
And then we would draw packs out of the same. So if he grabbed, Pro Set, right? Or Fleer or whatever, then we'd grab and we'd all open our packs, and whoever had the best pack won the other guy's packs.
Oh, that's very cool. So how did you judge who had the best pack? Just by whoever had the best card, like the one single player?
HL was a big stars and rookies guy. So if if we did like an expensive set, like we rarely did something like 89 score, because that one was expensive. That had Barry Sanders, Deion Sanders, Troy Aikman. If somebody got like a Derek Thomas rookie, you better have a ton of stars in your pack to beat him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You'd have to have Marino, Elway, Art Monk, Lawrence Taylor, Henry Ellard. You had to have like 5 stars to beat a big rookie. But actually, it was very fun. And if you pulled a rookie, or if you pulled a bunch of stars and you won the other guy's packs, you might have won their rookies. So
nice.
I figured you would enjoy that.
Yeah, trading cards are back, man. Listen, that is the new thing. I go to like my local Walmart, Target in the morning just to see if there's packs there, and they're all gone. So people are gobbling up these cards.
I think you and I should do a football cards podcast very soon. We should do a couple. We could do one on just our favorite sets of all time.
Sure.
I could cover a little bit older stuff. You could cover the Paninis, because I don't know my Panini sets. Who became Panini? Did Score become Panini? Who became Panini?
That's the one now. That's the high price one, right? You go to Target and those boxes are $100 for a box of cards, right? Those are the premier ones right now, but I have to stick with the other ones, the Pro Sets and the knockoff brands. It's still fun. That's all right. I'm not into it to make money. I'm into it to have fun. So,
for sure. A couple news and notes here on the podcast. Number one, really would appreciate any kind of review, and I want to tell you guys why. I don't ever promote our podcast in terms of telling you guys to subscribe, or I watch videos on YouTube. They do it every single video, 3 times a video. I don't do that to you guys, but it would help for us to know how we're doing. I would love to hear from you guys and I want to shout out to Steven, who congratulated us on our 100th podcast, which was our last one. Just if you're out there and you're goofing off on Twitter, either send us a note, or if you can go on Apple Podcasts and type, where most of y'all, I think, listen, just type a review so that we know how we're doing. It just helps us. If I was really trying to promote the heck out of it, I said, you guys need to subscribe now.
Yeah, but smash that like button, everybody.
Smash that, right. I'm not asking. I mean, that'd be great if y'all did that, but I don't ask y'all to ever. I don't think I've ever even said that on this podcast. No. But A review helps us know that we're on the right track in terms of, I feel like we've got a pretty good podcast, and I feel like, I mean, we have all great reviews but anyway, we want to make sure it's entertaining. The second news and note is Marcus. I want to promote his podcast, Locked On Cowboys. I've done it before. Obviously I do it at the end of every show, but he and Landon McCool are like at it every day, even now, and that's really challenging. And they get great listenership. So if you don't listen to Locked On Cowboys, you might just check it out, even if you're not a huge Cowboys fan. If you're an NFC East person, for example, I'd recommend it. Today, you guys went over the best third down backs, right, in history, including the Cowboys' best. Is that out today, or is it you release
it's
it
out?
tomorrow?
Yep.
Okay, so you guys can check that out on YouTube if you want. Also, we're on YouTube. I know most of our listeners don't realize that, but we are on YouTube. We started putting them up there. If you guys want to go check that out. One thing, I'm doing all the talking here, Marcus.
Sorry, go ahead.
But on Preston Pearson, that's the first third down back he's ever. I played for the Cowboys in the late 70s. I went, after you told me y'all were doing that, I went on a little bit of a mini Preston Pearson deep dive. The 6 years that he was a Cowboys third down back, he averaged 12 yards a catch.
It's pretty
What
incredible.
running back in the league is going to be averaging 12 yards a catch? None.
It doesn't happen. No, it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. And when you realize how many of those are like little screen passes and dumps, that tells you that he had a lot of plays that were, and Preston Pearson, when he was with the Cowboys, was already in his early to mid 30s. But I can tell you I have some Cowboys broadcasts from the late 70s. They ran him down the field on real pass routes. And I love seeing that. He was some matchup nightmare, and the rest of the league saw it, and they started copying the same thing. The only thing is Preston Pearson, dude, when he came to the Cowboys, I think he was already 30 or 31.
Yeah, he was an older player. Yep.
Right. What if he had been utilized like this when, a running back's prime is in their 20s, and, this guy had like a whole second career in his 30s. But anyway, I thought 12 yards a catch, pretty doggone good. Also, I looked up, he had, Marcus, I think 500 or 600 touches with the Cowboys and only 3 fumbles. That's not fumbles lost. That's just fumbles.
Yep.
He may have recovered all of them. So sure-handed, didn't fumble the ball, super clutch. Anyway, good stuff.
Do you know which running back had the most, the highest yards per reception that averaged, or that had at least 40 receptions? Can you guess who this is?
This past year?
No, this is all time. So which running back had the highest yards per reception ever?
My gosh.
For a season, not for their career, for their season.
What's my minimum catches?
40. So it's a pretty decent amount
of volume. Yeah, I was going to guess Gale Sayers, but Gale Sayers never caught 40 balls in a year. My gosh, this is tough.
Do we want to stay modern era?
Yeah, because if it's old, it's going to be someone like George McAfee of the Bears, or
Frank Gifford, if we want to go back that far.
Frank Gifford, yeah. Well, dude, Frank Gifford, this just in, great football player, like great Hall of Fame football player. Forget all the other stuff. Modern era, I have no idea. I mean, I can make a guess.
Go ahead, make it.
Tony Nathan. I'm going to go Tony Nathan.
No, the correct answer is Joe Cribbs from the Bills during the 1981 season. He caught 40 passes, 603 yards, 15.1 yards per reception.
Wow. Yeah, Joe Cribbs was the man. He also ran for, is that 81? I think he had 1,097 yards, somewhere like that. Rushing.
Can I give you another one that's really good?
Yeah.
Amp Lee for the Rams in 1997, 61 receptions, 825 yards. You average 13 and a half yards a reception. It's pretty impressive for a running back.
Well, now I want to know what Joe Cribbs' 1981 rushing yards are to see how far off I was.
Wow, we're really going down a rabbit hole.
I know.
1981, he had 1,100 rushing yards.
On the nose?
Just under that.
I said 1,097.
That's the right number. I just wanted to.
I got it.
By the way, first 2 years of his career, 28 fumbles. That's a lot of fumbles.
Yeah. He ran, I think, for like 1185 his rookie year. But the Miami Dolphins, by the way.
How do you know that? By the way, how do you know? That's exactly what he ran for.
Well, and by the way, we're going to do something pretty cool today, too. Marcus is going to give us his top rookie that he thinks from each class in terms of being able to make a contribution right away from each team. So that'll be really cool. We're going to go through all 32 teams, but it's on point. No, it's on subject because Joe Cribbs is kind of a forgotten player. As a rookie in 1980, the Buffalo Bills had not beaten the Miami Dolphins since the 1960s. So you're talking about division opponents, right? They played the entire decade, Marcus. Didn't the Chargers have a run over the Raiders like this where they won like 17 in a row?
Yep.
Yeah. The Bills went the entire 1970s without beating Miami. And then Joe Cribbs gets on board, and I think they beat him down at the Orange Bowl that year. And Cribbs could run, catch. He went to the USFL, though, bro. Great player. Super great player.
Also missed the whole season due to a contract dispute, which never happens other than Le'Veon Bell, right?
Yeah, was that 1988?
84.
Oh, 84, right. Because he went, they don't have it there because he played for the Stallions in the USFL. Then he came back to the Bills in 85. But his 80 to 83 numbers are insane.
Oh, they're ridiculous.
Yeah, 82 is a strike year. The numbers are going to be lower, but I think he led the NFL in 82 in rushing yards per game.
He did. How do you own Pro Football Reference? You just know all this stuff. It's just like ingrained in your memory.
I just, I used to consider NFL history my job. So there you go. Anyway, but I want to get to what Marcus prepared for today, because as Marcus points out, he does all the work. So we've got every team lined up. Now, when Marcus, you picked the guy that you think is going to make the best contribution this year, but you didn't just hang your hat on the premium guys. What was your thinking as you went into this?
Yeah, guys are going to have big roles, and a lot of these guys are going to have very important roles. Like we'll talk about the Bears here in a little bit. They drafted 2 defensive backs in the second round. I think both those guys are going to start, but the guy that's actually going to have a bigger role and a more important role might be the receiver that they drafted in the third round. So I considered that. We're going to try to talk about a lot of different players from different spots in the draft. And we're going to try to do this kind of quickly today.
Yeah. We're going in alphabetical order. So we're going to start with Arizona. Give me your first 4 here. I'm curious.
Yeah. For the Arizona Cardinals, we've got Cam Thomas, an edge rusher from San Diego State. Good run defender. We got the Atlanta Falcons with Drake London, who they drafted in the first round. Baltimore Ravens, Tyler Linderbaum, the center from Iowa, who they selected at pick 25. Very important job in that middle of the offensive line there. And then the Buffalo Bills, James Cook, the running back that they drafted from Georgia.
Boy, I like all these. I'm surprised with your Atlanta one. That's not where I was expecting you to go. Arizona, boy, they need him to they've got to have pass rush help this year for sure. Linderbaum for Baltimore, Marcus, center is still kind of underrated in today's game, especially with the team that still has a relatively young quarterback, but also that runs the ball like they do. The quicker he can contribute, the better off for them.
It's also been a spot that's been awful for them for the last couple of years, right? They just had a revolving door at the center spot. So he's going to be thrust into the starting lineup, and he's going to have some. Listen, that AFC North has some pretty good defensive tackles with Cam Hayward, Stephon Tuitt, and DJ Reader with the Bengals. He's going to have to play well.
Yeah. Last point on this: the Bills, they use Devin Singletary so intermittently. It's hard to gauge how good a player he is. And they try to get J.D. McKissick, something we mentioned on our last podcast. I forgot what happened there. I think he signed and Washington got mad and then he went back, right?
Yeah, I think
weird. Something
he had
really
a change of heart.
Like
he decided to stay back in Washington. Okay. Yeah, but
Washington said we didn't get a chance or something.
And Buffalo's been looking for that running back for a while, somebody that can actually be a receiver out of the backfield. I think James Cook is going to have a big role early on.
Like Joe Cribbs. That's what they could use. Okay, let's go to, by the way, longtime Bills fans absolutely know who Joe Cribbs is. Also wore number 20, a very cool running back number to this day. Yeah. Let's go through your next 4.
Yeah, it's Carolina Panthers, Ike Ekwonu, the offensive tackle from NC State. I'm just more curious to see where he plays. So they start him out at left tackle. Do they play him at guard?
Low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, they absolutely need him to play well.
Low-hanging fruit.
I know. Chicago Bears. Velus Jones, wide receiver from Tennessee. The Bears don't have a lot at wide receiver right now. It's Darnell Mooney, and that's just about it. Velus Jones is an older prospect. He played on the same USC team that had Sam Darnold and Juju Smith-Schuster.
What is he, 24?
He's 20. I think he just turned 25.
Yeah, and they got him, but they got him later, right? Like was he a day?
He was a third round pick, but
third round pick, day 2.
But
yeah, okay.
I mean, if you're drafting a 25-year-old rookie in the third round, you expect him to come in and contribute right away. This is not a developmental player. I think he's going to have a big role. Bengals, Dax Hill, defensive back of Michigan. It's their first round pick, but they need him.
They need it.
Especially with the Jesse Bates contract stuff. Bates is not in minicamp right now due to his contract. We'll see there. And then the Cleveland Browns, David Bell, a wide receiver from Purdue. They selected him at pick like 100. Very similar to Jarvis Landry, one of these bigger slot guys, not super fast, ran a 4.7 40-yard dash. But they need somebody that can do the middle of the field, be a tough guy. I think David Bell could do that.
One question about David Bell here. Make the case for me why you want him to play and you didn't want to bring Jarvis Landry back in.
Well, because I think Landry is at the point of his career where he's starting to miss a lot of games. He already wasn't athletic to begin with, and now I think he's lost quite a bit of his quickness. They just need somebody that can block, that can make key catches on third down, and I think that's why Bell's going to have a nice little role.
Well, incidentally, Jarvis Landry speaks highly of your vertical leap. Let's look at your next 4.
All right. Dallas Cowboys, Jalen Tolbert, wide receiver, South Alabama. He might have to play a lot early on with Michael Gallup coming back from the torn ACL, losing Cedric Wilson, losing Amari Cooper. Denver Broncos, Nick Benito, edge rusher. Do they play him on the edge? Did they play him as a linebacker? I don't really care. He can rush the passer. And with Randy Gregory coming off shoulder surgery, they're going to need him. Detroit Lions, Aiden Hutchinson. Don't have to spend a lot of time on him. And then Green Bay Packers, Christian Watson, wide receiver, North Dakota State. They desperately need some speed in the offense. If he isn't ready to go and he can't make plays, I have no idea what that Green Bay offense is going to look like. They desperately need him to be a big-time playmaker right away.
Well, Christian Watson, it's the same situation as the Cowboys. I mean, they may need him to play. It's necessity, really, at this point for Green Bay and for Dallas, as you mentioned with Gallup's injury. With the Broncos, could this be a situation like Joe Tryon last year where Tampa, where you use them situationally because they do have the luxury, if Randy Gregory is totally healthy and Bradley Chubb plays like a monster, then you're not going to need him that much. So you use him as a rotational player, but you could still contribute right away that way.
Absolutely. I think that's what the Broncos are banking on, for him to be that third edge rusher that can do a bunch of things. I wouldn't be surprised if Benito has a really good rookie season. He's just a good player.
Well, we're going in alphabetical order, but we got AFC South row here, so let's do it.
All right. Houston Texans, Dameon Pierce, a running back from Florida. Now, the running back position for them, they didn't get a lot out of that spot last year. They lost Phillip Lindsay to free agency. He actually signed with the Colts today, by the way. I like that signing. I wouldn't be surprised if Pierce comes in right away and starts for the Texans. Indianapolis Colts, Bernard Ryman, offensive tackle, Central Michigan. He's going to play left tackle. He's going to fit into where Eric Fisher was last year. Hopefully that's an upgrade. Jacksonville Jaguars, Luke Fortner, a center from Kentucky, who they drafted in the third round. I wouldn't be surprised if he grabs that starting center job right away from Jacksonville. And then Kansas City Chiefs, Sky Moore, wide receiver, Western Kentucky, really more of a slot receiver, but he's the one guy that could actually add some juice and the speed on that offense to potentially replace Tyreek Hill. So I'm keeping an eye on Sky Moore. Yeah,
well, with Sky Moore, we've seen Hardman. I think we know what he is at this point. He's a contributor. Oh my gosh, I could have made the sky's the limit joke, but if Andy Reid can get this guy involved in the offense early, and maybe he has more potential. Either way, it's going to be very difficult to replace Tyreek Hill. The center for Jacksonville, if they get what Kansas City got out of their rookie lineman last year, they're right next to, they signed a guard from Washington, and Jacksonville's trying to shore up the interior of the lines so Trevor Lawrence doesn't have pressure in his face. I'm thinking, speaking of Brandon Sheriff, by the way, I just didn't want to get too much into guard talk.
Yeah, we do that every week, right?
Right. But that would be absolutely huge for Jacksonville if Trevor Lawrence has a little bit more time this year so that he can develop. All right, next 4.
Las Vegas Raiders, Neil Farrell, a defensive tackle from LSU. The Raiders really struggled to stop the run when it mattered last year. So they go out and get one of the better nose tackles in this class. They brought back Jonathan Hankins in free agency. But Neil Farrell, keep an eye on him, an older rookie, but somebody that can actually stop the run. Then we've got the Los Angeles Chargers. Isaiah Spiller, running back from Texas A&M. I thought he could maybe be a second-round pick, maybe a third-round pick. He falls to the fourth round. Austin Eckler, he's still the workhorse guy there, but Justin Jackson played a bigger role last year than I think people think. I think Spiller is going to have an opportunity to get 8 to 12 touches as a rookie. Wouldn't be surprised if he has a big impact there. Los Angeles Rams, Logan Bruss, guard from Wisconsin.
They need it.
They need it. I mean, they lost 2 starting linemen this year. The depth is not good. Keep an eye on him. And then the Miami Dolphins, Channing Tindall, linebacker from Georgia. They didn't have a lot of draft picks, but Tindall is a 4.42 40-yard dash linebacker that could absolutely fly to the football.
Yeah,
we'll
off
see.
the ball guy.
Off the ball guy. We'll see. Yeah. He's highly, highly athletic.
Again, when we talk about off the ball linebacker, for those of you, if you don't know, we're really referring more to kind of your classic guy that stops plays in the running game, maybe covers backs out of the backfield, occasionally will blitz, but they're not the edge rushing, pass rushing linebackers like are so glorified these days. I've got a question for you and one comment. Texas A&M running backs. Do you remember Javorsky Lane?
Of course. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I kind of big back. Didn't he go to Tennessee? I'm trying to remember where he went.
Yeah. Yep.
He was kind of fun to watch in college. And Farrell for the Raiders. I like this one. A lot of times when teams have good pass rushers, we tend to, or maybe not we, but broadcasters will say that, they have a good defensive line. You still have to be able to stop the run.
Yep.
You can't totally pass rush. You've got to have an interior player that can either eat up space, get you an occasional pass rush. But if teams could just run all over you, it's going to mitigate your pass rushers, and it's going to make Chandler Jones, who they spent money for, and Max Crosby, not as effective. So I really, really like that move.
They need guys that can help them get to 3rd and 7, right? And that way you can let Crosby and Chandler Jones just tee off on the quarterback. I think Neil Farrell will help them do that.
Where did they get him?
Fourth round.
Fourth round. Yeah.
But that's where you draft the runs. Yeah, that's where you draft the run stopping defensive tackles, right?
Right. And that as an organization, they, especially with under Mike Mayock, who's been much maligned, they actually had a lot of success around that area of the draft. It was just the top picks that they kept missing, other than Josh Jacobs. That was a decent pick.
Yeah.
All right. Next 4.
Minnesota Vikings, Lewis Seen, a safety from Georgia. I mean, Elliot, we did this not too long ago. We went through that Minnesota roster, and that's really good. There's not a lot of
this
holes.
Guy. I'm with you.
If he can be as good as I think a lot of people think he can be, and you pair him with Harrison Smith and the rest of that defense, he might change kind of the whole attitude of that unit. So I'm keeping an eye on him.
Wasn't he the last pick of the first round?
He was, and the Vikings made a very controversial trade, going from 12 to 32. And normally when you do that, you pick up like a next year's first round pick. No, they didn't do that
this time.
No. But the rumor was that that's who they were going to take at 12 anyways. Like, they love this guy so much. I'm just really excited to see him play.
Well, then that's smart.
Yeah.
You get, sorry to interrupt, but
no, go ahead.
If you know you're going to take a guy, you get a little bit of extra capital. Why not? Why not? I'm sorry to interrupt, but go ahead. Keep going.
New England Patriots, Tyquan Thornton, one of the biggest reaches, I think, in the draft, at least according to big draft media. A lot of people had this guy as a 4th or 5th round pick. He was chosen at 50 overall. The Patriots actually traded up to draft him, which tells you that they've got a plan for him right away. He's got a lot of speed, very raw as a route runner, but that receiving core is not very good in New England. So I'm curious to see how quickly he can rise up the depth chart. Then we got the Saints here with Chris Olave. They gave up a king's ransom to go get Chris Olave, 2 first-round picks, a 2nd-round pick next year, a couple late day 3 picks. We'll see about Michael Thomas. I saw a report yesterday that Michael Thomas still isn't running and working out from his ankle injury. So maybe they know that he's not coming back. And then for the Giants, it's Kayvon Thibodeau. They just need somebody that can create pass rush consistently. And if he can be as good as the Bosa's or as good as Chase Young as a rookie, I think all of a sudden that Giants defensive line could be really, really good.
They just need another impact player. I mean, Leonard Williams played pretty good for them, but they need another guy. By the way, I have to say, I thought part of the country was going after the MSM, the mainstream media, but no, it's big draft media that's the problem in this country. Sorry. Look, can I make political humor?
Yeah, it's all right.
The way you said it, though, it's like the big draft media.
Well, I'm just saying, you look at like the consensus board of the top 10.
No, I love it.
Guys. Yeah.
I love it. No, from now on, man, I'm railing on the BDM, the big draft media.
Yeah, I mean, your guys, Daniel, Jeremiah, Chad Ryder, those kind of guys.
Those guys. Let's get to your next four. Sorry.
The New York Jets. They had 3 first-round picks, but I'm not talking about any of those 3. It's Breece Hall for me. I think he's got to be the favorite to be the rookie of the year this year. And if he has a fantastic year, he can give them Jonathan Taylor-like numbers. I think that offense for the Jets could be a lot of fun to watch. Eagles, Nakobe Dean, linebacker from Georgia. There's some reports that maybe he needs some surgery. He's going to decide to play through it. That's the one,
right?
He fell all the way to the 3rd round. And this was somebody that very easily could have been a top 15 pick. Much like the Vikings, the Eagles roster is just really good everywhere. But the one spot that they're not great at is linebacker. And Elliot, we've seen linebackers as rookies come in and play really well.
They've never invested in a spot. No. When we talk about off the ball linebackers, that's not a spot that team is invested in. So this is an interesting pick.
Steelers, George Pickens, wide receiver. I don't know who's going to be starting at quarterback for Pittsburgh, but they desperately need somebody who can stretch the field a little bit. Chase Claypool is just way too unreliable. George Pickens, a 5-star recruit, number 1 wide receiver recruit in his class. I think he could have a big impact in year 1. And then for the 49ers, maybe the most interesting name on here, Ty Davis-Price, somebody that I know we haven't talked about yet on this podcast, a running back from LSU. 49ers trade up to go get him in the 3rd round, which is fascinating considering how well Elijah Mitchell played last year.
Yes.
They still have Jeff Wilson under contract. They traded up last year for Trey Sermon, and then you go up and get another running back. I wonder what Kyle Shanahan is thinking about Ty Davis-Price here.
This one is surprising to me. I'm surprised you picked it because I thought Jeff Wilson was an effective player. Elijah Mitchell certainly was effective. Raheem Mostert, by the way, if you guys didn't see, a guy that had 200 yards in the NFC Championship game a couple years ago against Green Bay is now in Miami. Too many injury problems for him over the last couple of years. But every time I saw Mitchell play, I thought he's very effective. Maybe he was effective because the holes were blocked, and maybe Shanahan feels like, hey, we need a guy that can take advantage of these creases a little bit more. I'm not sure. Does this guy have that kind of explosiveness?
Kind of. I don't know. Kyle Shanahan has been weird when it comes to drafting running backs, right? Like they traded up for Joe Williams a couple years ago in the 3rd round, and he never even played for them. Like he got cut before he played. Trey Sermon was pretty quickly in the doghouse last year after drafting him, I think 75th overall. So I don't know. It's just one to keep an eye on.
Maybe they just stayed married to their board, and this is the guy that they had the highest rated. Real quick, Breece Hall, we talked about this on the phone, but not on our podcast. The running back position has become so devalued, partially because of people like Marcus, that I think it's actually too devalued now. There is no position, I don't think, in pro football, other than maybe like a kicker or a punter, where a guy or kick returner, where a guy can come in and contribute right away like the running back position. And, as long as they can pass block on some level, teams will put them out there, especially obviously that you capitalize on them when they're young and explosive. Breece Hall, you and Chad had as your highest ranked running back. You told me 10 or 12 years ago that this guy could have been a top 10, 15 pick in the NFL draft if he had been taken back then. Do you still feel that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think we go back 5 years, right? When Leonard Fournette was the number 4 overall pick, or Ezekiel Elliott was the number 4 overall pick.
He has this kind of talent?
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing really separating him from those guys. I mean, he's just as fast. I think he is a really dynamic player in the open field. I think this was a steal for the Jets. I think it's a perfect landing spot for him.
How was he catching the ball? Didn't he played at Iowa State, right?
Yeah, and they threw him the ball all the time. He's got soft hands. There's really not a weakness in his game. He's not the most powerful runner. Like he's 215 pounds, but that's okay. If you can make guys miss in the open field and you can rip off long runs, I don't really care that maybe you can't move piles with your legs.
Well, he's not the only back they have there either. He's going to be part of a rotation there. So, okay, let's get off the Jets. There's too much Jets talk.
I like talking about the Jets.
The Jets are like the new Jags for our podcast. All right, your last 4.
Seattle Seahawks, Charles Cross, their first round pick. how quickly can he replace Dwayne Brown as that left tackle? I'm curious to see. They absolutely need him to, because the offensive line is pretty dreadful in Seattle right now. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, last offensive lineman we're talking about, I promise. But Luke Gadecki from Central Michigan. They lost Ali Marpet due to retirement. They lost Alex Kappa in free agency. They did bring in Shaq Mason, but Gadecki's going to need to play right away. I think he's going to be just fine in the middle of that offensive line. Tennessee Titans, Traylon Burks. They traded A.J. Brown away, and they're hoping that Burks can replicate some of that production. I don't see that in one. It's a lot to ask. I don't see that, but he's going to have a big role. And then the last one, Washington Commanders. Brian Robinson, a running back from Alabama. I love Antonio Gibson. I think he's one of the most talented running backs in the league, but for whatever reason, they seem hesitant to give him a huge workload. This is kind of something different than what they had last year. McKissick is the receiver. Gibson is kind of the do everything back, but Robinson is that middle of the tackle box, no nonsense type of runner. I can see him having a pretty big role here in year one for Washington.
Yeah, well, Gibson was hit or miss for them last year. And I think sometimes when you convert an athletic player like that, Gibson was a wide receiver, they want to bounce things a lot. And you're just talking about in between the tackles, very functional, knowing the value of a 2 or 3 yard run when you just got to have it. A couple things here. We talked about running back being a great spot to transition college to pro ball. You can see that in your list because you had at least 5 running backs on this list, if not more. Wide receiver is not that. So it's bad enough people are going to be expecting Burks to replace A.J. Brown. It's not an easy position to transition anyway, much less replace somebody who, honestly, A.J. Brown was huge for their team last year when he came.
Yeah.
So that's, there's that. And then Seattle, I'm sitting here thinking, what is Russell Wilson thinking? Like, okay, so now I go to another team and now y'all draft a guy really high to protect me. Like, thanks a lot, except I'm not there. Great.
I mean, the only reason they drafted him is because of the first round pick they got back from the Broncos, right? Otherwise, they wouldn't have drafted him, right? Because he wouldn't have been available. So
I'm trying to think of guys they've drafted high up. Was Fetty like the only guy?
James Carpenter 1 year, right?
Okay. I mean, they just, they
just whiffed on all those guys, though.
Oh, and they didn't invest a lot in the offensive line, kind of like we were talking about. Philadelphia didn't invest a lot in off-the-ball linebacker. The only difference is offensive line is a lot more important than off-the-ball linebacker is. And with Tampa, I'm with you all the way. If he can step in and play, that Tampa has had some luck with young linemen being able to come in and play. Ali Marpet, I think, started as a rookie, if I'm not mistaken.
Tristan Wirfs as well, right? Tristan Wirfs was incredible as a rookie.
When Marpet went to a small school, didn't he go to
Hobart?
Hofstra? Hobart. That's right. Hobart. Right. I was close. So not really. Okay. So anyway, just some random thoughts there. This is interesting though, because you really have like a smorgasbord of 1st round picks, 4th round picks, some day 2 guys. But I understand the only one I really struggled with was the 49ers one.
It's just weird. Like their whole draft in general was weird. They didn't have a 1st round pick because of Trey Lance. They drafted Drake Jackson and edge rusher in round 2. And then their next pick was this running back from LSU who wasn't even a full-time guy there. And a lot of people thought this was a 5th or 6th round pick that they traded up for in the 3rd round. So we'll see. Listen, we know that if you're an undrafted free agent or a late round pick, you gotta prove for a long time that you're good in order to stay as a starter. Maybe they're just not convinced that Elijah Mitchell is anything more than a rotational guy, not an every down starter.
Who was the guy they drafted in like 14 or 15? I want to say an uber talented running back that I want to say he went to like South Carolina. I could be wrong on that.
Marcus Lattimore.
Yes. And they knew they was going to have to miss the whole year, kind of like Willis McGahee back in the day. And but that guy never made it. Anyway, I don't remember which draft that was, but
I think it was 2013, 2014, somewhere around there.
Yeah. And Willis McGahee, we have talked about on this pod before. Buffalo drafted him. He didn't play the whole year. Came back. Willis McGahee had a really good career.
Yeah.
But anyway, just a random thought. All right. Nice job here. I don't have anything to add other than the levels of your draft nerddom have stretched out for 2 months of this podcast.
Yeah, I think we're done, right?
I think I'm shutting the door on your draft knowledge.
That's fine.
We're gonna lock it. We're going to lock it away. You know, it's good. I'm glad we had one last say on it, but I'm no offense, but I'm ready to move on from the draft. We got to talk Hall of Fame here pretty soon. Yeah, that's the next big event coming up.
I might still be boycotting the Hall of Fame. I'm still mad at the Hall of Fame voters, so we'll see.
Yeah. I don't consider the schedule release an NFL event.
You don't? Why not?
Not sorry.
We did get big NFL news. We did get here. This will be my last word. You ready?
How do you know I was going to say I'm giving you the last word? Maybe today I decided I didn't want to give you the last word.
Do you want the last word today?
No, go ahead, please. Have the last word.
The NFL, starting in 2023, is going to implement flex scheduling for Monday Night Football. And I'm actually curious to hear your thoughts on it, Elliot.
I think in theory, that's a good idea because Monday Night Football has, featured some stinkers. And it gives them an opportunity not only to have some better games now that they've put so much money into their broadcast via the booth, really, but also given it's the last say on the NFL weekend, you kind of want it to be an important game. Okay, that's the good part. It also shows how much the NFL is trying to fix a problem that they created. Yep. And that problem is overexposure, oversaturation, which you and I have talked about many times. The reason why, and I don't know why NFL execs cannot figure this out. The reason why Monday Night Football does not do well is not because Al Michaels and Dan Fouts weren't good. Okay. It's not because John Madden and Al Michaels weren't good. It's not because Dan Dierdorf and Frank Gifford and Al Michaels weren't good. And pick out any team you want. It's because the NFL did Sunday night and then they started doing Thursday night.
Yep. And
then when you have every single game, then you have your own network. Monday night no longer becomes an event. People are done. They're just done for the weekend unless it's a great matchup or it's just not must-see TV anymore. And so to me, they're still trying to bandage that issue. Am I saying this wrong? Am I being curmudgeon-y, Carl?
You're not, because speaking of that, the NFL also announced that there's going to be multiple triple headers on Monday Night Football, 3 games going on at the same time. And we're used to that first week of the season always having a doubleheader, right? Every year, an early East Coast game and then a later West Coast game. Sounds like that's going to become pretty much an every week thing where we're going to have games kicking off at 7 Eastern time and then 10 Eastern time. Don't love it. Don't love it, Elliot.
Yeah. So he's the host of Locked On Cowboys. That's what I think of that. You can, that's all right, Herbert. We could kick up the music because I got nothing to say about that. There you go. Covers the Raiders for USA Today. You can follow him on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. I am at Harrison NFL on Twitter. And like I said, you guys let us know. Either tweet us or leave us a review on Apple or Spotify or whatever. Wherever you listen to it, you can leave a review. That'd be great. We'd like to know that we're doing a good job for you guys. All right? Everybody take care. Bye-bye.